Hello and welcome to Mama Drama Trauma Academy. I'm Tammy Taylor, your teacher and host, whose only qualification is having healed my own and successfully supporting others to do the same. Mama Drama Trauma Academy
is now in session on the topic of
how to get off the trauma train. It is possible, life after MDT and how empaths with the mother wound can get off this trauma train is what we're talking about today. The emotionally addictive trauma ride we know as Mama Drama Trauma is normalized way of living. It is a normalized way of interacting and expecting the world to interact with us. Today we're going to delve deeper into this, and very much like a OBGYN or midwife has to sometimes go in and bring the baby out, we have to do that to bring our life after MDT out into the open of our lives.
And I couldn't escape. It burned in my face. Do I believe I'm gonna pretend there'll be no crashing?
To get off the trauma train, we have to go higher. And this week's melody is from a good friend of mine from Belgium, Milla Brune. Higher. What is this emotionally addictive ride for empaths with the mother wound? This high-low cycle is what the dysregulation is I talk about so often here at MDT Academy. And of course, if you have your deck, you're working with this on a daily or at least a weekly basis to receive messages from Great Mother to help you do just that. And of course, as always, you can go to the top of this podcast to the tab for the Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle deck for yours. Today, we're talking about the fifth suit of resurrection. Welcome. If you're just joining us for the first time or you're just coming back after a listen or two, welcome. This is a place and a space for a very special group of people. We're a small population on the planet, individuals who are empaths, can feel the feelings of others, and who have the mother wound. So we marinated in the mother wound, in our mother's womb, and we absorbed it, as well as our own experience of the mother wound as empaths. So it's been very traumatizing. Last week, we discussed the fourth suit, integrity, all about the unique astrological signature of all individuals on the planet, and most, some say, have the mother wound, and that is Saturn moon aspect. So any place in your chart you have that, you might want to check that podcast. It's just the one before this. The suit before resurrection is integrity, and telling ourselves the truth about what does work and does not work for us with that signature is what that was all about. Today we're going to go higher before the last suit of emancipation, where we'll be talking about daily life beyond MDT. But before we can get to that, how do we get off the trauma train? For those of us old enough to remember the Jetsons, the futuristic cartoon of the 70s about what life would be like in the 2000s. And we are ahead of schedule, I would think, with AI. And as I've shared in the past great mother has a lot to share with us about our role in this new world, this new brave world that is really asking to go deeper. It appears otherwise, but like the Jetsons, we want to quickly recap what we've covered so far. Of course, the Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle deck is based on the acronym ASPIRE, because empaths with the mother wound do aspire to live in loving detachment from mama, drama, and the trauma. It's not just a cold, unfeeling detachment that we want. It may be what we are familiar with through this emotional addiction. We self-medicate, and we talk about that. We do things to numb our emotions because they are so sensitive. We're always on high alert, and so our modulating method, our coping mechanism tends to be self-medication or some form of self-control, self-harming, something that is not allowing us to experience our divinity identity. Okay, and so that's what we are here this lifetime to do. We are here to release all of those tendencies and behaviors that we've accrued over lifetimes. We're old souls. That's why we're so sensitive. We've had so much experience and we carry a lot of baggage. And we bring it into this lifetime, and mama drama trauma is an opportunity to discard it. So how do we bring the baby out? How do we live beyond MDT? What Great Mother told us when she downloaded the Mama Drama Trauma Healing Oracle deck is that we have to grieve, release, let go of the mother that we want in order to accept the one that we have. And the one that we have is Divine Mother, expressed as Great Mother, what we know and what we understand as the Goddess Mother archetype in human form. Yin energy expands beyond the earth, believe it or not. It is proven to be quite a quantum entity, the black hole, this resonance of life that creates universes beyond our comprehension. The love is more powerful than anything we feel we lack. So how do we get off of this addictive ride? First, she said, we have to grieve, right? The 5 steps of grieving are embedded in the deck. We've covered acknowledge and talking about really what the basis of this pain is. Addiction is pain avoidance. And when we avoid the pain of mama drama trauma, we are doing it to survive. We are doing it to stay connected to the maternal energy we know and we've grown to love and know over lifetimes. The soul that incarnates with us as a birth mother knows us well for many lifetimes. Often we have been her mother. And this relationship has come to a juncture where it's time for both of us to learn to live in loving detachment. This is a soul rites of passage for us to become effective guides ourselves. Guides cannot be emotionally attached to the souls that they support. We have to learn through lifetimes how to be lovingly detached from others. In other words, not afraid, uncertain, apprehensive, or attached to outcomes based on decisions or behaviors from others. We have to live and learn to let live. We have to allow ourselves to live and let ourselves live, which is what self-inquiry, the second suit, is about. The second step of grieving after we have released the denial and acknowledged it is anger. There's rage. There is an uncontrollable righteous indignation about why we are feeling such trauma, such frustration. After we've acknowledged MDT, shouldn't everything be okay? Shouldn't everybody want to support us? Shouldn't everybody in the family see our pain? And no, it is a singular soul. Anyone who has studied initiations, rites of passage in any ancient culture knows that it is a singular path. If you've looked at our social media, you can see that. We are a group, and yes, groups go through groups of rites of passage together, usually as age groups. You see that between the ages of 8 and 13 and that sort of thing. In European cultures, the ages were a little higher, especially in Greek culture. Rites of passage, temples of Delphi and things like that may have started a little later, maybe 13, 15 years old, that sort of thing. But it is an individual journey. And this journey is necessary in order to cultivate a relationship with Great Mother within, in order to develop our own intuitive powers in a way that we can trust it. And that requires a continual processing. So we've discussed processing, the mind bending that we learn to do, not to delude, which is our typical coping mechanism, to avoid, that's the addiction. We avoid the pain because we don't know what else to do in a healthy way. That's why we're here. There are healthy ways to integrate the pain, healthy ways to accept the pain and what it is there for. It is not a judgment or condemnation. We have to not only process MDT, but in order to do that, we can't even do that without the divinity identity mantra. We have to also process the reality that we are dearly loved, divine children of the great Mother, Father, God, who are never judged, condemned, or left alone. And so that is the most crucial first acknowledgement step of recognizing that we are old souls, okay? And that we are divine. We are on a divine path of initiation, and that this lifetime of MDT is all about addressing that fear, that uncertainty, that self-doubt, that apprehension based on the karma that we're experiencing from our own lifetimes of ignorance and not understanding that. Okay, we all go through this. All souls go through this process, and we make our choices. Now, there are other paths, but, in terms of eons, we all end up in the same spot. But in the meantime and in between time, this is a choice that we make. And of course, this processing is what the Oracle deck helps us do. It helps us process these emotions, each of these suits. And I'm about to pull out the resurrection suit, since that's what we're working on today, so that we can see, as we've looked at the other suits, how the phases of the moon, there are 8 cards in each suit, based on the 8 phases of the moon, help us to process what that suit and that chakra is about. Of course, processing is gut chakra, self-inquiry is sacral, and acknowledgement is root. That root chakra, Saturn, we were talking about Saturn moon with integrity, telling ourselves the truth about what works for us and what doesn't. What works for others doesn't necessarily work for us. And that's what that integrity suit is about. And we were talking about that we are evolving to become guides for others with our insights and with our intuitive development that we're doing this lifetime. And that integrity suit is about our angels, guides, and ancestors really stepping in and helping us to live in loving detachment so that we can effectively develop that intuition in a reliable way. So let's say, for example, feeling scared because there is no family support for us to move on beyond the MDT. And the real elephant in the room with this is that many people can identify with being in a place of forgiveness, which is very easy for us. It can be difficult when we haven't done the work of self-inquiry, when we haven't forgiven ourselves. And of course, this self-inquiry suit, that sacral suit, our desires, when we haven't really properly assessed what those are, and we are remaining in a state of self-judgment and self-condemnation because that's been the train, that's been the emotional ride. We have been so subjected and conditioned to condemn and judge ourselves for the intuitive truth that we know that we are not being treated as dearly loved, divine children of the great Mother, Father, God. And when we voice that, or when we express that in a way where we seek isolation or we seek peace even, and we are confronted with being superior in our behavior or in our speech or in the way that we perceive the world, and woo-woo, and all of these things are presented to us as attacks, we can get stuck in the resentment. And that's why it's useful to have a tool. If you have your own, which it's likely as an empath, especially if you're a psychic empath, that's fantastic. If it's even better. There are two students here. Okay, I'm going to complete this quick recap before we go into the resurrection. But I want to stop right here and really be clear that, two things about the rage and about the students here at the academy. This righteous indignation and even the pain that we experience typically for us shows up as rage, internalized depression. Okay, so this depression is a very powerful energy that we turn inward, and it causes us a lot of illnesses. So when we are unable to process our emotions, this is why we're sick. This is why we are lethargic and are unable to do basic tasks without a great deal of effort. Everything seems to take so much effort because all of our energy is being sucked up. We don't manage energy the same way 95% of the world manages energy. Remember, we walk between worlds. And so as we learn about that and what that means, we have to take responsibility for how we are managing this powerful energy that we bring into this life. This is why, as we move into resurrection, what we're really talking about is the full moon phase energy, the fifth suit, the fifth phase of the moon in the deck, that has to do with rebirth. It has to do with the illumination that comes from being born again based on having gone through these stages. So if you have a way that you're doing that, it is likely a way that Great Mother has already given to you. I'm just sharing the method that she's given to me to share. And because of other aspects, we all are unique. And so there are 9 planets, although we share the Saturnal lunar aspect. And empaths, in addition to that, we have other aspects as well. That's for anybody with the mother wound, Saturn moon. But as empaths, we either have Pluto 4th house, Neptune 1st house, we have North Node, South Node conjunctions with the moon. We have other things that we'll discuss later that are signatures for empaths in addition to Saturn moon. But we have unique things going on in our charts. And for me, I have powerful mercurial energy, so I'm going to share mine. I'm here to share mine. I'm here to share the one a Great Mother gave me. But whatever one she's given you is going to be what you need to use. If you have not received one and you are a part of the academy, you need to be working with this deck so that you are processing if you don't have one. There are 2 students here. There are those who are learning to reconnect with themselves, with that internal great mother divine energy within themselves, and those learning to reconnect with others. They are already connected intuitively with themselves, but they are learning how to connect with others. Because what happens is MDT makes us be in a state of self-preservation to a very imbalanced degree. Okay? And when you begin to heal this imbalance based on a lack of maternal presence, protection, and provision, those three basic maternal needs, that unhealthy attachment, that neediness, once that is acknowledged, once our divinity identity is acknowledged, how to take it from the intellect into the actual application of life and experiencing that, this is where the work gets started, the rubber hits the road, and there are those of us who are learning to reconnect with ourselves as dearly loved, divine children of the great Mother, Father, God, who were never judged, condemned, or left alone. And that is that singular path. Because only Great Mother can speak to us and give us the guidance, presence, protection that we need, the provision of care that we need, and give us those breadcrumbs. And I know in the beginning, I was not happy with just living by faith, but it becomes the most beautiful thing, because that's all we need are breadcrumbs when you're flying. When you're going higher and higher and higher, what do you need to be weighed down with a hamburger for? You're not down here all the time. You're actually gracefully flying and landing between the worlds all the time. So that's all we need are the breadcrumbs. But we don't know that until we apply the process, live it, and work it. So that's what we're about here, is working the process, not just the intellectual, because that does nothing but create more karma. You know, if this is just some type of an intellectual thing and, just seeing, what's going to be said and whether or not that makes sense and whatever. Yeah, I can understand that for a while. Everybody has to determine whether or not something is a reliable source of information, a reliable resource for your learning, your growth, development, particularly spiritually. That makes sense. But just to do that after that's been confirmed, no. Because it's just going to add to that baggage. It's just more baggage. If it's not tested, test it. You don't want to apply it. The self-inquiry podcast that was done, that one, Let Them Be Right, I believe, has the whole raw score process that you can do every time you're triggered. And what's a trigger? An unhealed wound. So every time, for those of us who are learning to reconnect with ourselves, you use the deck to get a message from Great Mother. It's bringing you in more connection with yourself. You use the raw score quiz to see exactly where in the divinity identity you are misaligned. It brings you back in connection with yourself. And for those of you who are learning after you have gained that connection with yourself, or you may be coming here already born, you may have a connection with yourself. And you may vacillate. Most of us do. I had a very strong connection, and through MDT, I lost it, and I had to do the work to regain it. Those of you who already have that self-connection, you've gone through that solitary phase, that journey, and you are seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. But for you, the fear is, how do I reconnect with others now? I've lovingly detached to get to this level of understanding and self-love, but I'm finding it extremely painful to reconnect with others because I really am traveling between worlds, and it's difficult. Even on this side of everything, with all the understanding and all the grace and having more energy, I don't want to waste and expend it with other people. How do I reconnect? Those of you who are reconnecting, living the divinity identity mantra for you. I am a dearly loved divine child of the great Mother, Father God, who is never judged, condemned, or left alone, is that active daily application of the divinity identity in a way that you are actively making choices in your life where you are transcending the fear, you are confronting the uncertainty, you are expecting the apprehension to come, but despite it, having the courage to be happy, to claim your birthright, to be healthy, to claim your birthright to be whole, no matter how it looks to others. You are trusting that connection you've worked so hard to develop with Great Mother to intuitively guide you. So as we move into rebirth and the resurrection suit, the balsamic moon card, the download card of resurrection, this throat chakra energy, this full moon energy. But of course, each suit has all the phases of the moon in. Each suit has a general lunar energy. This full moon illumination energy, balsamic moon resurrection card, is Christ consciousness. So this Christ consciousness that lets us know that the elemental aspects of life, air, earth, water, fire, is the energy that we have to learn to balance, that we have to learn how to use to manage our energy, just as he demonstrated through the teachings, the red letters in the Bible, of a consciousness of being joint heirs with him. For Buddhists, the relationship is more about Buddha's mother Maya, who died in the first week of his life. He had mama drama trauma. And so this having to master the internal flame of desire for the mother that was fulfilled through their tradition, her being reborn in heaven to watch over him and to guide his solitary soul evolution, which was demonstrative to others as they began to follow his path of living and loving detachment from the pain and whatever anybody else would think should be in his life. He was a prince. He was wealthy. He should be happy. He should be this. He should be that. He was in such great pain and agony about that and about the world that he saw around him of many people suffering. He identified with the suffering of others. So there's no, my pain is greater than your pain here. You know, you don't know my pain here. There's no class of pain. You know, it is not about a competition. It's about that release enabled through the action of going in to get that baby, that life after MDT. On the cross, Christ released his life and said, "It is done. What I came to do in this life, it is done. Whatsoever comes after this, let it come." And therein he was resurrected. And that's what we have to do. After the balsamic moon, of course, the download moon gives us the message from the previous cycle. And so the previous cycle of integrity, that Saturn moon message, is what we resurrect from. The reality of MDT, in other words. And in that previous cycle, there's an illumination, the lesson, there's an insight about honoring in every moment what does and what does not, what is and what is not working for us. That is the hardest thing for empaths to do, is to prioritize our needs first. When we do not do that, we are not managing our energy properly. Everything for us is about energy exchange. It is not about a transaction is tit for tat. An energy exchange is a higher vibration. It is an exchange of energy between two or more individuals that allows the collective to experience its highest good, its divinity identity. That's the energy exchange that happens once the download of resurrection about energy exchange, and that's what Christ consciousness is all about. This is all about the Christ teachings. Baba Yaga, the wild woman new moon card in resurrection, is the Slavic goddess, the old crone goddess that had the shack built on chicken legs, and the kids were scared to walk by her house going to and fro home and in school and the market or whatever, because it was just crazy. And this crazy old woman was out there with all this junk and everything. And of course, that was the haunted house at night and everything. But Baba Yaga, the wild woman card, is all about that phase in our lives, that new moon phase that comes through this addictive cycle, when we're working through that shame, blame, and guilt, when we're working through that shame about having MDT and what did we do wrong. It's a very heavy piece of baggage that the soul carries into this life. What did I do wrong? What did I do to deserve this? And balancing that, cleansing and purifying that with divinity identity at first seems delusional. How can I be a dearly loved divine child of the great Mother, Father, God, when I'm feeling this heavy baggage, this burden that I'm carrying? We have to remember we live in a universe of divine order. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. That is not the same as judgment and condemnation. That is dropping a glass on the floor and it breaking. That's not a judgment or condemnation of the glass or of the individual that broke it. That is action-reaction. So whatever we have done, yes, as an old soul, we carry a lot of baggage. And as an old soul, we've had many lifetimes. We know countless ways to release it if we choose. And that's what the resurrection suit is about. It's about choosing to free ourselves of the emotionally addictive ride that is so familiar to us. We know we're about to drop that glass. We can't carry one more iota of an ounce of anything. And we are very familiar with, it's going to be all over on the floor. Gonna have to get the broom, sweep it up. I know what the trash can is, throw it in the trash. And we know the waves and the highs and lows is familiar. Nothing is different. Everything is the same. We know how that goes. And every time we feel heavy, that's what happens. And that's it. Every time I want to do something, I want to go out, I want to take a walk, I want to go to the park, there's always a problem. No one wants to walk with me, or no one wants to let me out of the house because they're always asking me to do something or give me my space. And I feel bad, I feel blamed, I feel shame for wanting time and space for myself, or I feel guilty because I'm always asking somebody to do something, and this, whatever it is, it's an addictive ride. And it's using our energy in ways that do not support us releasing it. Releasing the pain. Addiction is pain avoidance, and we cannot release it if we keep avoiding it. If you're holding on to your dog, or you holding on to your cat, or you holding on to a relationship or whatever, you can't release it. So in the same regard, if you're avoiding your dog, if you're avoiding your cat, if you're avoiding the relationship that won't allow you to go and do the things that you need to do to have productive and healthy energy exchanges, you can't release it either. Because if it's avoided, it's going to come back at its own will, and it's going to interact with us in the way that our mindset is in. Until we change our mindset, external things will continue to interact with us in the way that we energetically allow them to. For example, asking people to do things for us can be very difficult sometimes because we don't know what the energy exchange needs to be. I want to go for a walk every evening and I just want to be by myself. I have a small child, or I need to take care. It's usually us having feeling that we are compelled to take care of something or someone that we can't take care of ourselves, right? We have to have a daily practice, whether it's the oracle deck or a meditation. I'm a dearly loved divine child of the great Mother, Father, God. That's why she gave us that, because if you do nothing else, if you say that to yourself in those moments where you feel you're leaking energy, or you feel in your gut chakra that you're blocked, that's the processing suit, and we often feel blocked right there. We have a lot of intestinal issues as a result. Great Mother goes all into that, and that's all in the guidebook with the deck and everything. I mean, it's just there. And we have to ask ourselves, what is it that I really need? Because Baba Yaga, the wild woman, she said, I need me a shack out in the woods. I wanted to be on some chicken legs because in my imagination, it's going to move like a chicken. And whatever I need is going to always be in my yard. And this is her world that she's creating in the black new moon. The black new moon is when the soil, the field, the planting field is fallow. There's nothing there but the spirit of the moon incubating, marinating like we were the womb of the soil before the seed is planted, before insemination. And that wild woman energy is very fertile. It has so much. It has chicken legs, it has roosters, it has eggs, it has food, it has all kinds of fertile soil. And so we have to ask ourselves, what is it in this fertile moment of my desire, of I know I need as an empath space, that I know once I have this energy from doing what I know I need to do, I will be able to give even more. And so what is it I need to exchange with this husband, this wife, this mother, this child in this moment to take care of myself? Not preemptively, but just asking the question. A lot of times we will try to decide for other people what they need. This is going beyond the boundaries. And that's what the processing suit is about too. It's about healthy boundaries. Because until we have healthy boundaries, we won't have the integrity to tell ourselves the truth about what works for us and what doesn't. But by the time we get to resurrection and rebirth, what we're really talking about is being able to look that fear, that uncertainty, that apprehension in the eye and say, despite you being here, despite me feeling you, despite me knowing that this is real, I'm going to allow myself to be grateful for what Great Mother is telling me I need, and letting others know, and having you directly let me know what it is I need to do in order to have this experience. Listen, and if it sounds crazy to you, then negotiate it. If someone says, well, if you go walking at night, well, then I can't do this or I can't do that. And that sounds crazy because they're sitting there on the couch every day and now all of a sudden they need something to do. Then you're like, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. I'm going to need to go ahead and do my walk at night. And you do that in the morning because you're usually sitting here in the evening. That's not going to be a problem at all. And those are the types of conversations that we have to have. Those are the kinds of confrontations that we like to avoid, but really don't have to be confrontations at all. We don't have to be dismissive like that. We can say, well, I noticed that, usually you're just sitting here and I've just been feeling like I needed to sit here with you. And I really need to be going out for a walk, and it would be great if you came with me, but you don't have to. But I need to go for a walk. I'll be refreshed when I come back. And if you're speaking to somebody that doesn't care whether or not you're refreshed, you might not add that. But this is the kind of thing that we work on as we ask Great Mother questions for our readings. That might be a question that you have, for a reading when you do a spread. You might say, well, Great Mother, what is it that you want me to know about this conversation I need to have with my husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, child about this need? What is it that you need me to know as I go into this conversation? Because I know I need to address this. And there will be a message that comes back, like the crescent moon card of the resurrection suit, Hecate, the crossroad. This throat chakra card is all about that energy exchange. It's all about, now Hecate is the Greek crone who stands at the crossroads, and she demands payment before you move on, up, down, north, south, east, west, whatever journey you are trying to continue. She demands payment. And that's what we have to do. We have to pay. And sometimes this is something that we determine what we're willing to pay, what we're willing to exchange over some time. Some of us need an entire lunar cycle of 28, 29 days before we can decide what it is we want to exchange in order to get something that we desire. Because we need to confirm our desire. Again, everything takes so much energy for us. We do ourselves a great service when we allow ourselves the time and space that we need to make those decisions in ways that honor us. We learn from our messages that we get from the healing deck. They take us from point A to point B in these small junctures and questions that we have in our lives about what to do, because once we apply it and we experience the happiness, health, and wholeness of just that one little thing, and we do it again and we do it over and over and over again, then we have the confidence that we need to work with the tips, the tools, and the techniques offered by it. Now, moving through this rebirth and bringing the baby out in order to illuminate what life after MDT will be like for you. It's different for everyone, but the commonalities will begin to show through as you work with where these cards from the resurrection suit show up in your spread. You'll start to see Great Mother giving you similar messages over and over again, like the first quarter moon card, Sphinx. This throat chakra energy or higher will energy is about facing the challenge. Sphinx energy is all about the teacher appearing when the student is ready. It's all about overcoming a heretofore challenge that was thought to be insurmountable. That's the Sphinx energy. But despite, again, that fear, apprehension, or uncertainty, still standing in that stillness with a sense of divinity, it comes. The teaching comes, the guru comes, the knowledge comes, the reliable intuition comes. And we have to trust it, because it usually comes in a way that we weren't expecting. And that's where we can lose a lot of time, a lot of effort, and a lot of energy when we don't follow it. When the Sphinx energy comes through, and when we are repetitively receiving cards in this suit, for example, like the Sphinx, it's because we're not following that guidance to face the challenge. And I know this because I've worked with the deck for 10 years, and I've worked with people, and I've worked with myself, and it's a process. It might take 30 days to face that challenge of having that conversation on the couch about that walk in the evening. It might take doing some reading several times and getting the same answer before you even broach the subject or open your mouth. And ultimately taking a year before you even turn it into a monthly routine. 2 years before it becomes a weekly routine. 5 years before it is that daily routine you always envisioned, based on the amount of energy and effort we decide to put into it. We are supported, we are guided, we are loved. But the trauma train is something we have to gather ourselves, walk to the door, and disembark on our own. And it goes fast. It carries a lot of people we know, love, and care about. It carries a lot of cultural and maternal power archetypes. We've talked about the 6 types of maternal wounds. Many of us have mama drama trauma, not just because of our birth mother, but earth mother. We've had climatic disasters to deal with. That is a form of MDT. We've had motherland issues to deal with, political asylum and immigration we've had to deal with. That is a form of MDT, deception and delusion and exploitation from the motherland. Okay, fatherland is more political, but motherland is about that cultural moray and tradition of nations, and that being uprooted now. Everyone is experiencing motherland, and all of these are represented in the various suits as well. There's 6 suits, and each of these mother wounds, Great Mother has come through and talked to us about that and processing that. So we can see the depth of these things. We can see the power of these things, and the resurrection suit is all about Great Mother wounding. Great Mother wounding is when we do not gather ourselves to get to the train door and get off because of those attachments, which is what the angels, guides, and ancestors help us do. They help us to live in loving detachment. So when we come to the Horus Osiris card in the resurrection suit of that gibbous moon energy, that waxing gibbous moon energy, waxing up to the full moon of death and rebirth, we can revise our situation and actually begin to move forward with that challenging situation. Take a step, if not 2, just a step toward the door. Before, we might not have even been able to stand up out of our seats because the power and the hold was so strong in between mama and grandmama. And it may have taken a lifetime ago to even stand up. And this might be the lifetime to walk to the door. Okay? This is why so few of us do heal, because of the grief. Great Mother, which is the wounding of the resurrection suit, came through this suit, this energy of the waxing gibbous moon energy to tell us we have to let go, grieve, release the mother we want. The mother we want is the fantasy mother. The fantasy mother is the fourth suit of integrity. When we have a problem telling ourselves the truth about the kind of mother we really have. When we have a problem telling ourselves the truth about the true state of our spiritual status. Okay, when we are in this kind of a spiritual bypass mode, where we are pretending to have a level of spiritual evolution that we haven't earned. We're really good, again, about carrying intellectualized baggage. We've lived here many times. We know a lot about spirituality and religion, and we can put on the act. But because we're carrying so many karmic bags that we haven't released, we're really not living it. And many times, no one knows this except us or other empaths who can feel it, whether or not it's true. And see, that's why we don't see a lot of activity on the social media with Mama Drama Trauma, but you see my backdoor activity is off the chain because it's challenging to tell on social media who's who and what's what, unless you are in the presence of someone. And we're old enough souls to know that that is not baggage that we want to carry. We don't want to carry the baggage of people who are not sincere because we're having to deal with our own issues of integrity. We're having to get up and get off of this train that's going nowhere. And we know because we've been riding circles on it for lifetimes. That's what the Horus Osiris waxing gibbous moon card is all about. Death and rebirth. When it shows up in your spread, it is telling you that it's time. It's time to embrace the new normal. It's time to actually allow yourself to experience that spiritual knowledge. Turn it into experience so that you have the wisdom that you need to actually trust and live by it. This is what opens the full moon door of Brigid in the throat chakra, of the resurrection suit. This energy is all about authentic passion. Once we've told ourselves the truth, once we've allowed our wild woman energy to come through, facing the challenges that brings. Wild woman energy is why we stand at the door of the train for so long. And some of us just jump. And when we jump, we get really injured, It's hard to wait for that next stop because in the meantime and between time, we're still on that crazy train with those people. We don't want to be pulled back in. It's challenging getting off the trauma train. But this is how we can do it. When Brigid shows up, Great Mother is giving us the neon green light. Go. This is you, boo. Do you. Shine your divinity. Or this issue that you're asking about is creating this challenge or problem for you right now because it is not supporting your authentic passion. And your authentic passion is saying, hey, wait a minute. And that's why you asked me. Because that passion that you have to share that unique gift, talent, or ability is experiencing some shadow energy in this situation. And you are going to have to decide when the opportunity comes next with this person or in this situation, and that train stops there for your decision about what to do, use the full moon light of your illumination to step off and do you, boo. That's Brigid. That's Brigid. That's Brigid. It is allowing ourselves to walk through the threshold of that light at the end of the tunnel, that full moonlight, allowing ourselves to do that. We've heard of people, many of us, who have had the NDEs, the near-death experiences, and speak of that light. We don't have to wait, we know, for actual carnal death. We can have many deaths within our lifetime. There are people who've had multiple NDEs. Healing mama drama trauma is one. And usually there are multiple within its healing process. Through aligning with the divine, authentic passion of our souls, we incrementally are burning off karmas of lifetimes in which we have not embraced it. And what happens when we don't embrace our divine passion of the soul? We're not very happy. And when we're not very happy, we're certainly not whole. And we're not kind to people. We're not kind to ourselves. We're unhealthy. We feel we're unworthy. We don't eat right. We don't do right by ourselves. We don't do right by others. Creating karma. Not judgment or condemnation. Karma. Which is most powerfully experienced in the maternal form because of the power our actions have through replication. As we model our behaviors to others, as we instill our behaviors in others, it's energetically amplified, so the karma is greater. The yin and the yang of that is that it comes back stronger on us in the pain that we feel that we've inflicted on others, but also in the great insights that we've gained as a result. That's where the high sensitivity comes from, you see. So we have the insights, we just are so self-judging and so self-condemning and overly self-abandoning through this emotional addiction to the ride. We abandon ourselves, we abandon our healing journeys, and we don't even allow ourselves to tell ourselves the truth because we're always judging ourselves. Why? Habit, on the train, addicted, we know how it go. That's how it is. That's how it's been. That's what we do. No. Great Mother is saying, no, that is not what dearly loved divine children, the Great Mother, Father, God, who were never judged, condemned, or left alone do. No, that ain't what they do. And all of us are, but how many of us are applying this to our lives? This is a way we can do it. Because after Brigid and the full moon illumination into that authentic passion and the exploration of that and the entertaining of that, sometimes all we need to do is just entertain it and be jovial and happy about it and welcome opportunities to experience that little thing we like. It could be crocheting. It could be watching movies and telling people about it. Some people are fantastic story recanters. They tell people all about what happened in the movie and what was going on, and you just love listening to them. That's a gift. That's a gift. And likely hard earned. As an empath with the mother wound, lifetimes of telling stories by fire at night, campfire, and things like that. These abilities we've earned. And we are in a time in human history where we need them. Humanity needs you. You need you. The waning gibbous moon card of Nefertiti, the Egyptian goddess, wife of Akhenaten, is about owning your beauty. When this card shows up, oh man, especially with Brigid, authentic passion, Great Mother's like, don't just recognize your passion here, but you need to own it. Own your passion. Own your beauty. And everyone's beauty is unique. Own your beauty in this situation, she's saying. That's the release after the full moon. You know, the waning gibbous moon is about the phase of the cycle where we have gone through the energetic cultivation of the soil. You know, from the time of the dark new moon of Baba Yaga, it's just being held fallow before the seeding of the crescent moon with that Hecate energy of exchange to plant the seed. And then the first quarter moon energy of the Sphinx and facing the challenge of that seed. The seed is the intention. What is the intention for the phase that you're going through? And in the resurrection suit, our intention is always some form of MDT death. Some form of shame death, some form of blame death, some form of guilt death. We got to get off of this ride. That ride is old. It is not honoring my divine birthright to be healthy, happy, or whole. Got to get off this ride is what this suit is about. Horus Osiris, that waxing gibbous moon phase of death and rebirth, is about tightening up that intention, letting go of those weeds that keep choking you out and standing up in that carriage. The first breakaway, standing up for yourself, which is about what self-inquiry is about. Is it true I'm not worthy? Is it true that I'm wrong for stating my needs? Is it true? Being curious about the self, so that by this time when Horus and Osiris show up, it is time to release those weeds of doubt, uncertainty, and fear. Brigade, that authentic passion starts to shine through, if only a speck of a light at the end of the train tunnel. It begins to show up. So that waning moon is about after this. In this phase, there is gratitude for the journey. There's harvest and enough to share with others from the illumination that you've received about the great gifts of the health, happiness, and wholeness that you're experiencing now. That baby starting to come, that baby of freedom, of liberation from MDT, which we'll be discussing in the Emancipation Suit in the next podcast. But before that, the last card of the suit is the lawsuit card of destiny and free will. This throat chakra energy of the third quarter moon, the release phase of the moon after gratitude, thanksgiving, and sharing from the full moon, and the waning moon goes into the power of choice. The law of destiny and free will from the throat chakra, the higher will, is about exercising and applying our power to choose. Each and every day, in each and every way, it is our choice to live our divinity, our identity, or the shame, blame, and guilt of MDT. The trauma ride is an emotionally addictive ride. It is a ride full of pain avoidance and conditioned shame, blame, and guilt. But we can get off it. And here at MDT Academy is what we are all about. Going higher. Getting off the trauma ride. For empaths with the mother wound is about recognizing the highs and lows of the MDT cycle is an energy we can more efficiently manage by claiming our divine birthright to be happy, healthy, and whole every minute of every day. I hope that has been a helpful tool technique and list of tips for you to get off the trauma train whenever you need to, whenever you feel triggered, whenever you feel an issue is too challenging or dysregulating in the moment for you to address, but you need to. Give this podcast a listen. I just cannot get this song out of my head. From the first time I saw Milla's post on Facebook, I can't get it out of my head. Higher, higher. And she has a dance version too. See you on the dance floor. Check it out, the link below. But above all and most of all, remember Great Mother loves you, and I do too.
Wanna go higher, wanna be somewhere else. They don't know my world, they don't feel what I feel. Are they made of steel? Don't wanna know if that's your meaning or real. Don't wanna go back if there's only empty faces there. Wanna go higher. Wanna go higher. Left out on the wire and they poison my faith. I wandered for days, falling into fire and I couldn't escape. It burned in my veins. Do I believe or am I gonna pretend there'll be no crashing? Back from the start until the bitter end, my place is there. Wanna go higher. Wanna go When you need it, needs a flirt, you got it, babe. Gotta hit it, gotta fly, just a little, you got it, babe. When you need it, needs a flirt, you like to get it, you got it, babe. Gotta hit it, gotta fly, just a little, you got it, babe. Wanna go higher, wanna know fire. I'm freezing cold, I swear. Wanna go